All right, good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to another episode of Grizzly's Cave. This is Grizzly Andrew, and this is going to be another solo episode tonight. But before I get to that, I do want to plug a few things. First, I want to plug the GoFundMe account that I've been mentioning in previous episodes. This is the GoFundMe account is Help Ben Build a Future for Indie Wrestling Stars. Basically, this is to help fund a future training facility for the current trainees and future trainees, and for those that want to eventually get into the business. The link is gofund.me/9 B as in boy, 2 F as in Frank, C as in Charles, 903. Excuse me, folks. Sorry, I've been fighting some congestion. Also, the next NAW wrestling event is going to be on Saturday, April the 5th at the Nebo Community Center in Nebo, Kentucky. Ticket prices are as follows. Ages 0 to 5 get in free. Anybody that is ages 6 to 12 will be $5. Anybody that is 13 and older, the ticket prices are $8. Concessions are provided. The doors will open around 6 or 6:30. The show will start at 7 p.m. This is a family-friendly promotion. I promise, folks, if you come to this, you will not be disappointed. And I know all of us would greatly appreciate it if you all are able to make it out. So, anyways, tonight's episode, I'm going to talk about this would actually be my second WWE live event that I attended. This actually occurred on January 28th, 2012, and this was actually the night before the Royal Rumble in 2012. So I received a Christmas present a month prior from my first wife. She had actually purchased tickets to the show. It was located in Evansville. It wasn't Roberts Stadium. I cannot remember the location or the name of the venue, but I was pretty ecstatic about it. I'm not going to lie. So we go to the event, and I mean, the parking lot is crowded with people. And the seats that we had were actually really good seats. I mean, they weren't like ringside, but they weren't up in the nosebleeds. They were pretty close. And basically, it was a house show. She did tell me that certain wrestlers would be there, and she had told me that CM Punk was going to be there, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, Kane, etc. I was like, oh, dang, this is going to be awesome. Well, I didn't know what the match lineup was. Basically, you didn't find out who was wrestling who until they came out for their entrances and so forth. But it was a pretty awesome show that I went to. Well, anyways, so the show starts and the Bella Twins, their music hits. They get to the top of the entrance ramp, and of course they do their dance. And I ain't gonna lie, I wished I could have hit rewind and seen them do it again. They did their dance and then made their walk to the ring. They were actually the ring announcers for the night, and I swear they are gorgeous. Oh my God, they are gorgeous women. So, anyways, getting to the first match that I remember, it was Jinder Mahal And this was actually a few months before he was put into 3MB with Heath Slater and Drew McIntyre. I gotta admit, though, the music he had was pretty kick ass. And of course, he comes out to a chorus of boos from the crowd. Well, his opponent was Sheamus. And this is about 5 months into Sheamus's babyface run. And he got a great ovation. The match was really good. Sheamus wound up winning the match with the brogue kick. The irony of that night was uh, Sheamus wound up winning the Royal Rumble the next night. They were really pushing him big time at that point. And for those of you that remember, he wound up going to WrestleMania a few months later, and he wound up defeating Daniel Bryan in very, very short time. I don't remember the exact time frame that he won the world title, but I mean, it was pretty awesome to kind of see that take place and be a part of that. And lo and behold, who would have thought the next night he would have won the Rumble, and who would have thought a few months later he wound up becoming the world champion? The next match was for the United States Championship, and it was between Jack Swagger and R-Truth. For those of you who may not be familiar with Jack Swagger, after he left the WWE, he eventually went to work for Lucha Underground. He wrestled as Jake Strong, and then he had a run in AEW as a Jake Hager. R-Truth came out, and he had just split from the Miz. They had that tag team back in 2011 called the Awesome Truth, and they were actually a pretty good combo. And there for a while, R-Truth wasn't using any music when he was a heel. Well, so before his music cranks up, there's some audio. It says, "The truth has set me free," and then of course his song "What's Up" starts playing, and it was an entertaining match. Well, R-Truth actually wound up winning the match and actually won the championship, but then who I don't remember who the referee was, but he wound up reversing the decision, and I thought, "Are you freaking kidding me?" But I guess from a technically speaking, if R-Truth was to show up on Raw or SmackDown with the U.S. Championship, obviously they'd have to explain that in some kind of storyline fashion. But needless to say, when that referee reversed the decision, uh, they wound up hearing a massive chorus of boos from the audience. The next match was Santino Marella. Now, folks, I got to tell you this. So he had that peculiar walk that he would do when he was on Raw, SmackDown, excuse me, or pay-per-views. Well, at the live event, he came out just like a normal person and everything, high-fiving the fans. Then, shortly after that, David Otunga had come out. For those of you that don't know who David Otunga is, he was a part of the very first inception of NXT, and he was actually a part of the Nexus group that formed back in 2010. He was actually on a season of, I believe it was the second season of I Love New York. It was a reality based dating show that was on VH1, and I believe he was on there on the 2008 season. But later on he wound up getting with Jennifer Hudson and all that after his run with after the Nexus run had ended. I believe he had a tag team with, well, at the time he was referred to as Michael McGillicuddy, but that was who became Curtis Axel, the son of the late Mr. Perfect and grandson of Larry the Axe Hennig. Then after that tag team had folded, he wound up being like the right hand man of John Laurinaitis, or for the old school fans, Johnny Ace. Well, anyways, he came out after Santino's entrance, and he was at the top of the ramp, and he gets on the microphone. I don't really remember much about what he said. I just know I was pretty bored, so I kind of zoned out. And then he said, he introduced Santino's opponent, who turned out to be Ryback. Ryback hadn't made his way to, you know, excuse me. Ryback hadn't made his way to Raw or SmackDown yet. He was mainly wrestling dark matches. And he referred to Ryback as the human cyborg. And the music that he came out to kind of sounded like something you would hear from the Terminator movies. And he, I'll probably get a lot of heat for this, but I actually was a Ryback fan. But what you saw when he first debuted, that's pretty much what you saw in that match with Santino Marella, but the match did last a little bit longer. The However, he didn't use the shell shock move. He got Santino set up in the shell shock, but he basically like dropped to his knees as opposed to falling backwards like he did with his shell shock finisher. We didn't get to see the Cobra, unfortunately, during that match, which was kind of a bummer because that was like one of the biggest things that the fans would look forward to anytime Santino had a match, was when he used the Cobra finisher. Well, so Ryback won that match. The next match was for the, let's see, they were still calling it the Divas Championship at that time, and it was between Eve Torres and the reigning Divas champion Beth Phoenix, and that was a really good match. Beth really played to the crowd, especially when they were booing her, and at one point she wound up doing some little dance, wound up throwing her little skirt up in the air and all that. It was a nice sight to see. Got to see Eve Torres do a little dancing and all that before she did her little standing moonsault. That was definitely nice to see. Both beautiful women, that's for dang sure. Really, really good match. Beth Phoenix wound up winning that match after the Glam Slam. Kind of a bummer that kind of a bummer that Eve Torres wound up leaving WWE when she did. I thought she was a really good wrestler, and you know Beth Phoenix. I mean, she was one of a kind. The next match was actually my favorite one, and it was between Randy Orton and Wade Barrett. And I have to say that was the match of the night. There were no championships on the line, no special stipulations, no gimmicks, nothing like that. The match told a really good story. The music that Wade Barrett had at the time was still the music he was using when he had the core faction. Whenever they went to him and let's see, Ezekiel Jackson, Heath Slater, and Justin Gabriel when they went to SmackDown. And him and Roy, ugh, God, I can't even speak tonight, folks. I'm sorry. Him and Randy Orton had been in a rivalry for about 3 months at this point. Maybe might have been 4 months, but they had a good rivalry. It's kind of a bummer it didn't continue even longer. And I don't know about you folks, but I think that's what made old school wrestling so nice back in the day is because they had really long storylines, that lasted several months to a year. And I feel WWE is going back in that direction. I never was a big fan of these hot shot storylines where they were done within a month or two or maybe 3 months. I mean, they needed a long, lengthy program because I think it grabbed the audience's attention even more and it got them to want to buy a ticket or order a pay per view or subscribe to Peacock or the network, whichever at that time. But it was a really, really good match. And I'll tell you straight up, folks. I mean, I'm not a big Randy Orton fan, um, but I'm not going to take anything away from him as a wrestler. He's a very well accomplished wrestler. Same thing with Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett, I really felt like he got the shaft um, when he made it to the main roster in WWE. And in my opinion, I believe John Cena really killed any momentum that he or anybody from the Nexus ever had. But that could be used for another episode. Oh, you know what? What the hell? I got plenty of time. Yeah, I believe John Cena killed the Nexus. I believe he killed all their careers. Wade Barrett was a hell of a heel, a hell of a talker, and he was a good worker. And the momentum they had going before that SummerSlam 2010 pay per view main event, Cena, in my opinion, I believe he killed it because he wouldn't do the right thing. But, I don't just blame Cena. I also blame the people in charge. They should have said, nope, this is how it's going to be. You know, we're going to put these guys over. Um, but anyways, getting back to the match with Barrett and Orton, really, really good match. Good. Um, like I said, it told a story. Um, the match ended when Randy Orton hit the RKO on Wade Barrett, and I want to say that was kind of like halfway into the show. Might have been a little bit before halfway into the show, but I remember intermission had happened shortly after that match. But it was a really good match. Um, let's see. So also at this time, Y2J had, let's see, he had come back. I believe he had been gone for a little bit of a stint again, and he came back. But when he returned, he wasn't cutting promos or having matches. He was making his entrance, hanging with the fans and stuff like that. Well, um, David Otunga was out in the ring again. Well, actually, he was at the ring this time, and he grabbed a microphone and he's talking. Well, Y2J makes his appearance, and I mean, the crowd erupted big time when Y2J showed up. And David's on the microphone. He's talking, 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 talking some more. And Jericho basically had enough. He clocked him with the microphone. Otunga went down. The crowd popped big time, and it was, I mean, it was a loud pop. And in the midst of the pop, Jericho actually wound up putting him in the lion tamer. And when I mean lion tamer, I mean what he used back in his WCW days. And Otunga's tapping out and everything, and everybody everybody in the crowd's just enjoying it. Let's see. I feel like there was a tag team match, but I do not remember who was in it. Um, but anyways, we'll move on. The second best match of the night was the World Heavyweight Championship match. It was between the Big Show and Daniel Bryan, and it went. I mean, it went on for probably a good 20 minutes or so. A really good match, and maybe a little sidebar. I know Ric Flair once stated that he thought the Big Show was the best big man that's ever worked in the business, and um, I mean, I have, I'll say he's one of the best big men in the business. I've still got to throw Braun Strowman in there, but I'm even going to go old school. Yokozuna for a big guy, especially over 500 pounds, the man can move. Same thing with the Bam Bam Bigelow and Vader. Those guys were well over 400 pounds, and they could move. They were really agile. They could do moonsaults. I mean, those were also great big men in the business. And they had a really Big Show and Daniel Bryan really had a good match. I think it ended when, let's see, I think Daniel Bryan got disqualified or something, but that's how that match ended. Of course, the crowd was pretty displeased about that because at this time, Daniel Bryan had started, he was about a month into his heel run, and I think it was at this time he was doing started the Yes movement and all that. And then we get to the main event. This is when I figured out CM Punk wasn't going to be there, and I was pretty bummed out about that because I really wanted to see Punk. But the main event was, well, I heard John Cena's music hit, and I was like, oh God. And just like it was back in the day, there were some cheers and there were a whole lot of boos. His opponent was Kane, and for those of you that may or may not remember, Kane had just returned a few weeks prior, and he put the mask back on, but he also had this black mask that covered his head. It almost kind of reminded you of the Predator, um, the mask that the Predator wore in the very first Predator movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger. The only thing that sucked about Kane's entrance, there was no pyro, but it was a good, it was a decent match. I've also got to throw Kane and Undertaker in there for being the big men in the business that were really good workers. And during the match, and you folks will know what I'm talking about. Usually during a Cena match, there's a "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks" chance. So unfortunately, the side that I was sitting on was the "Let's go Cena" side. The other side of the arena was Cena sucks. Funny thing is there was like only it was me and one other person that was chanting Cena sucks, and it was the guy that was sitting next to me. So yeah, me and whoever this fellow was, we were completely outnumbered, and it went on for about a good three minutes or so. Unfortunately, the match ended in a disqualification, but the best part of the match was seeing Cena get choke slammed by Kane, left him lying in the ring. In case you people didn't know, I'm not a big John Cena fan. Um, I think like I said earlier, I believe he killed Wade Barrett's career. I believe he killed any other person that was in the Nexus. I believe he killed their career. Now, with the exception of Ryback. Now, some of you all may not know this, but Ryback was actually in the Nexus, and originally he was known as Skip Sheffield, basically kind of a Texas cowboy gimmick or whatever. That was before he got injured, and I think he had to go have surgery and obviously do rehabilitation and all that. But I mean, Ryback actually, even though he didn't hold any of the big belts, I mean, he was an Intercontinental Champion, and he actually had a pretty decent career with WWE. Now, I know a lot of people aren't big fans of his, um, and I respect that. Um, I say I was a fan of him because I mean he kind of, I'll say this, he kind of reminded me of Goldberg, kind of reminded me of the Ultimate Warrior, but with his airbrush gear and stuff, he obviously reminded me of Rob Van Dam. Um, but I mean, this guy got over pretty quick, you know, as soon as he debuted on the main roster. Did I think he was the best technical worker? No, but I mean, he was a powerhouse. But the thing is he did progress as a wrestler as the years went by. Now, no matter what your opinion is about him nowadays and stuff, I mean, we're all entitled to our opinions. So I guess I can't say Cena killed all of their careers, but and then Heath Slater, he did have a lengthy career with WWE even after the Nexus folded. But I don't know, man. I just really feel like they were trying to push Cena as the next Hulk Hogan. And I mean, I get it. That's who Vince wanted to be the face of his company. I mean, it's Vince's company. I respect that. But, you know, when your top baby face comes out to his entrance and he gets more boos than he gets cheers, probably time to either repackage or go back to the drawing board. And I mean, case in point, look at Roman Reigns. I mean, they pushed him as the top baby face of the company for God knows how many years. However, when he started that head of the table tribal chief persona, and actually embraced the booze and became the top heel of the company. I mean, that was a massive career resurgence for him, and I mean, and he was very successful with it. I believe Vince should have really pushed that envelope with Cena many years ago because, if you folks remember back in, I want to say it was 2006. I believe it was the WrestleMania 22. Cena main evented with Triple H, and when he came out, I mean, the boos were starting at that point. So I mean, you know, I gotta agree with what Jimmy Hart said many years ago. You got to give the fans what they want. I mean, they're paying customers, But I know there for a long time Cena didn't want to do a heel turn, which I mean that's his prerogative too. I get that, but from a business standpoint, I think it would have made more sense if he would have switched heel back then. I think the I think the biggest thing it's like, my God, how many more times can this guy keep getting pushed, and pushed as the guy of the company? I mean, give somebody else, the chance. So after Kane chokeslams Cena, his music's playing. He walks up the ramp. Well, then he stops and he turns towards the ring. And then he starts walking towards the ring, gets in the ring, and then of course Cena makes his comeback. Oh God. Oh yeah, let's not forget this too. So, um, back when Matt Cardona was with WWE, he was wrestling as Zack Ryder, and Zack Ryder was so over with the fans, and he got over on his own. And I think McMahon and company really resented that, and they basically buried Zack Ryder in any way they could. I mean, um, wound up doing that storyline where he was constantly getting beat up by Kane. Whether he was getting thrown off the stage or put into a wheelchair, being tombstone while wearing a neck brace and all that. I mean, and then Cena stealing, you know, Ryder's girlfriend, Eve Torres at the time, and all this and that. I mean, my God, I mean, how much more can you bury this guy? But I mean, the crazy part is as much as they tried to bury him, his fan base, Cardona's fan base increased even more. But yeah, that's another one that Cena really did some damage to. Um, so yeah, after Cena makes his comeback, Kane gets out of the ring, he disappears. Then Cena gets on the mic, and I'm like, oh my God, how much more? And then he brings the Bella twins in. I don't believe him and Nikki Bella had started a relationship yet at this point, but don't quote me on that. But then, you know, he gets on the microphone, he's talking, he gets the Bella twins to come in. They come in, they do their dancing. Again, really nice to see. I wished I would have had a button to hit rewind on and all that. And then they start doing the worm and all that as well. And that basically closes out the show. So after the show is over with, me and my first wife, we were about to exit, but then I see the merchandise table, and I realized I hadn't bought anything, a T-shirt or anything like that. So I stop at one of the merch tables, and I'm looking around, and I see a shirt that just says to me, I've got to have that one. So it was actually a Cena Sucks T-shirt. Um, looked just like a normal T-shirt that Cena wore, but it had um, Let's Go Cena, Cena sucks or whatever. So I made sure to get me one. The irony of that moment, after I purchased the shirt, there's a bunch of these kids close by that are John Cena fans, and one of them was standing right next to me, and he was a young kid. He had to be, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, 8 years old or whatever. He looked straight up at me. He says, "How could you?" And I looked at him. Oh God, I'm almost ashamed to admit this, but I looked straight at him and I said, "Well, it's because he sucks." Anyways, yeah. Um, I don't know what happened to that shirt. It just disappeared. But usually I'd wear it if I went to my buddy's house to watch the pay-per-views and whatnot. And but anyways, yeah, it was a really good event. Um, like I said, best match of the night I think was Wade Barrett versus Randy Orton. I think that one could have been the main event, but obviously they're pushing Cena as their top guy, and plus he had been in that rival, he had started that rivalry with Kane. And you know something, Kane was onto something. About a week or so after he returned to Raw and chokeslammed Cena, Kane was on the microphone and he told John Cena to embrace the hate, not rise above it, but embrace the hate because of the Cena sucks chants and all that. The Big Red Machine, he was definitely onto something back then. I personally believe it would have been better for business at that time had he, you know, switched to heel. I don't know. I'm kind of curious to see this heel storyline that Cena's a part of right now. Um, when I watched the Elimination Chamber pay per view last month, folks, I had said on one of my previous episodes that that was actually the first pay per view I've watched from WWE in almost 6 years. and a lot of it was I just basically had enough of the product, and so I thought, what the hell, I'll give it a look, and I'm glad I did. I mean, I was more than impressed when I saw the pay per view. And the very end, I about fell off my couch when Cena attacked Cody Rhodes and all that. I was like, I was like, are you freaking kidding me? And I was like, this should have happened many years ago, but it didn't. But I guess with this being Cena's last year before he retires, it's probably one of them things, well, maybe he doesn't want to live with regrets. Maybe he doesn't want to regret not ever turning heel like he should have long ago. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens with the storyline that he's in. I think it's really good for the company. I think it's ironic though when he came out to do his promo and all that, and he basically just got booed out of the building. So I mean, by God, I mean getting a reaction like that. I mean that's money right there. But folks, that's pretty much going to do it on this episode. I do apologize for not putting many episodes out the last couple weeks. I've just had a lot of stuff going on, and those close to me kind of know the situations and all that. But anyways, hopefully soon I'll have some guests back on. And before I go, for those of you that are fans of the series Dark Side of the Ring, let me give me just a second. Let me pull up the date here. So well, yeah. So Dark Side of the Ring will actually have a sixth season, and it will air on March 25th. So exactly 1 week from today, it will um, it will come back for its next season. And let me see if I can pull up what the episodes are. Give me just a second. All right, so it's looking like there will be 10 episodes. It is saying that the premiere is going to be about the infamous Hell in a Cell match that took place at King of the Ring 1998 between The Undertaker and Mankind. There will be an episode on the late Big Van Vader. Let's see. Looks like there will be an episode on Mr. USA Tony Atlas, which Tony Atlas he's been in quite a few episodes of Dark Side of the Ring in multiple seasons, and also Mick Foley. He's also been in many episodes as well of Dark Side of the Ring. Um, that just kind of gave me a little brief intro, but didn't tell me all the episodes that were going to be in it. Let me see if I can do some more digging. Give me just a second here. All right, looks like they will have an episode on the Sheik, Eddie Farhat, or the original Sheik as they call him. He is also known as being the uncle of Sabu. Okay, this next one's going to be pretty interesting. So if you all go back to the year 2004, there was a wrestler introduced as Muhammad Hassan, and he was only with the company for maybe I'd say for several months, and then he was just automatically gone. to say it was July of 2005. He just disappeared. But apparently, there will be an episode about him. There will be an episode about the late hot stuff Eddie Gilbert. The he I know he had a run in Mid South. I also believe in WCW or NWA at the time. He was also involved with the early days of VCW. He was actually also a manager in Mid South of the Blade Runners. And if you don't know who the Blade Runners are, uh, let's see, it was Blade Runner Rock and Flash. Blade Runner Rock eventually became the Ultimate Warrior, and Blade Runner Flash eventually became Sting. There will be an episode on, you'll remember her from WCW and TNA, the Scream Queen, Daphne, the late Daphne. There will be an episode on the late superstar Billy Graham. Looks like they're going to have one on the late Ludwig Borga, he had a brief run in WWF. He was known as the Helsinki Hellraiser. And this next one's kind of a shocker. This one is called Truth, Lies, and Billy Jack Haynes. Um, hmm. I don't know where y'all stand on Billy Jack Haynes. Hmm. I think looks like this season's going to be a really good season. Hmm. Yeah, that Billy Jack Haynes one's really piqued my interest. I'm really kind of curious to see how that turns out. But anyways, folks, that's going to do that for this episode of Grizzly's Cave. Like I said, hopefully I'll start going back to doing multiple episodes a week, and hopefully I'll have some guests on here in the near future. But I do want to tell you all I greatly appreciate your support. If you get a chance to listen to this episode, please give it a like and subscribe. Again, I want to plug the GoFundMe account that I mentioned many times. It is Help Ben Build a Future for Indie Wrestling Stars. The link is gofund.me/9 B as in boy, 2 F as in Frank, C as in Charles, 903. And the next NAW event will be April the 5th at 7 p.m. at the Nebo Community Center in Nebo, Kentucky. Doors will open at either 6 or 6:30. Ticket prices are ages 0 to 5 free. It'll be $5 for anyone that is ages 6 to 12, and then $8 for those that are 13 and older. Concessions will be made available. And this is a family-friendly promotion, and I promise, folks, you will not be disappointed. If you are able to make it out and see the show, we would greatly appreciate it if you could attend. And getting back to that GoFundMe account, folks, we got to keep independent wrestling alive as long as we can, and I really believe that this is definitely the way to go. Any donations would be greatly appreciated. All right, well, until then, this is Grizzly Andrew signing off from Grizzly's Cave. Take care, and God bless.